The rain whispered against the glass as her bare feet hovered inches from my face, soft, warm, and impossibly close. I didn't move. I couldn't, because in that breathless silence, her touch wasn't just comfort. It was a question I'd waited my whole life to answer. Welcome to Goddess Foot Confessions. Let's uncover what really happened. The soft amber glow of the living room lamp cast long, lazy shadows across the worn fabric of the couch. Outside, the faint murmur of a distant rain tapped gently on the window pane, a steady rhythm that seemed to slow time itself. I sat there quietly, heart thrumming in a mix of anticipation and hesitation, the familiar scent of lavender from the candle filling the air. The day had been long, draining in ways I couldn't fully explain, but now, wrapped in this moment of stillness, I felt a curious warmth beginning to stir beneath my skin. She was already there, relaxed, a quiet force in the space, exuding a confidence I'd never quite known how to reach. Barefoot, her toes curled gently on the plush carpet, the subtle arch of her feet catching the soft light and pulling my gaze like a magnet. The delicate flex of her ankles, the smooth curve of her heels, they all whispered something unspoken, a language made only for those who dared to listen. I found myself watching her, unable to look away. The silence between us was heavy but comfortable, filled with unvoiced possibilities. Her eyes met mine briefly, a slow smile touching her lips, as if she knew exactly what I was thinking, or perhaps what I was feeling but too afraid to admit. My breath caught, the air thickened, and for a moment, the world shrank until it was just us and the quiet dance of shadows and light. The rain's gentle tapping became a lullaby, syncing with the pulse in my veins, and I realized that something had shifted. A tender tension hovered in the air, a fragile thread waiting to be pulled taut. My gaze drifted down again, drawn to the soft skin of her bare feet, resting so close, so achingly close, that the scent of her warmth seemed to reach out and touch me. I wondered how far this moment might carry us. Would she notice my silent yearning? Would she let the distance between us dissolve like the mist beyond the window? I didn't know yet, but I was ready to find out. She shifted slightly, the soft rustle of fabric whispering through the stillness. Barefoot and poised, she had this effortless grace, the kind that didn't demand attention but naturally pulled it in. Her feet, free from the constraint of shoes, rested lightly on the carpet, toes curling and stretching as if they knew the quiet power they held over me. Each movement was deliberate, a gentle teasing that stirred something deep inside. Her eyes met mine again, steady and knowing, as if she could see the turmoil hidden beneath my calm. She caught the way my gaze flickered down to the gentle curve of her arch, how my breath hitched when her heel flexed against the plush rug. There was a playful challenge in her smile, an invitation wrapped in subtlety. Without breaking eye contact, she lifted one foot, sliding it slowly along the edge of the couch, letting her toes brush softly against the fabric. I caught the faintest scent of warmth, something intimate like vanilla and skin, that made my chest tighten. My mind raced to keep up, but my body betrayed me, frozen yet aching for more. She laid back with a relaxed sigh, the couch creaking softly beneath her weight. Her feet lifted, and she crossed her ankles in slow motion, the soles turning just enough for me to catch the delicate ridges and soft pads framed by slender toes. Her toes flexed lightly, as if inviting me into a secret language I was only beginning to understand. The silence stretched between us, thickening like the soft shadows that played on the walls. My heart hammered in my chest, caught between desire and hesitation. Every instinct screamed to reach out, to touch, but I held back, tethered by the unspoken rules between us, yet unable to deny the magnetic pull drawing me closer. She smiled again, a quiet confidence lighting her eyes, and I knew the game had begun. Her bare feet were no longer just part of the room. They were a silent command, a beckoning whisper that stirred something forbidden, something intoxicating, and I was helpless to resist. The room seemed to hold its breath as she shifted once more, her bare feet, now resting lightly on the edge of the coffee table. The soft glow from the lamp caught the gentle curve of her arch, the delicate lines of her toes flexing almost lazily, but with a weight that pulled my attention like gravity. My eyes betrayed me. They lingered far longer than they should have, tracing every subtle movement. Then, almost imperceptibly, her toes brushed against my leg. A feather-light touch that might have been accidental, or perhaps something more deliberate. I swallowed hard, the silence between us thickening, as if the air itself had grown charged with unspoken tension. My breath caught, a quiet pulse in my chest that spread warmth down to my fingertips. She noticed, of course. I could see it in the way her eyes flickered with mischief, a knowing spark that danced in the shadows. Her foot lingered a heartbeat longer, pressing just slightly against my jeans, before pulling away with the same slow grace that had captivated me from the start. It was a silent message, a question, an invitation, a promise all rolled into one. My heart thundered beneath my ribs. The room felt smaller, more intimate, as if the walls themselves were closing in to witness this unfolding moment. I wanted to speak to break the spell, but my voice was trapped behind a tide of sudden vulnerability. Instead, I stayed still, absorbing the weight of her presence and the delicate power of her touch. She leaned back further, her toes wiggling softly in the air, a subtle dance that set my nerves alight. The faint scent of her skin, warm, faintly floral, drifted to me, drawing me deeper into the moment. I couldn't stop staring at the curve of her foot, the way the light kissed every contour and the gentle rise and fall of her breathing. The silence grew thicker, charged with a forbidden curiosity neither of us dared name aloud. Her bare foot brushed my thigh once more, accidental or not. The question hung in the air, and I realized then that the evening had become a slow, tantalizing exploration of boundaries, where every small movement carried weight beyond words. I was caught completely, willingly, in the quiet spell she was weaving, and there was no turning back. The subtle brush of her foot against my leg left a lingering warmth that settled deep beneath my skin, awakening something I hadn't expected. Every nerve seemed alive, attuned to the gentle, almost teasing movements of her bare toes and the soft flex of her arch. The way her foot rested near me, so close I could almost feel the heat radiating from her skin, held a magnetic pull that I couldn't resist, no matter how much my mind told me to stay distant. I found myself captivated by the small details, the delicate curve where her heel met the floor, the tender pads beneath her toes that flexed rhythmically as if breathing with her, the faint traces of rosewood polish glinting in the lamplight. My gaze lingered longer than it should, tracing the lines as if trying to memorize the feel of her presence. Every slight movement made my breath hitch, my heart stumble in unexpected ways. She caught my gaze and smiled, that knowing, confident smile that teased and dared all at once. There was a subtle shift in her posture, as if she sensed my fascination and chose to lean into it. Slowly, her foot inched closer, the bare skin brushing the side of my calf in a deliberate, slow caress that sent shivers racing through me. I swallowed hard, cheeks warming as a flutter settled in my stomach. Our eyes locked, hers steady, playful, inviting, mine wide with a mix of awe and unspoken longing. The silence stretched between us, thick and heavy with possibility. It wasn't just her foot or the touch. It was the entire atmosphere that had transformed. The room felt charged with a quiet electricity, a tension that whispered secrets no words could capture. I dared a slow exhale, trying to steady my racing heart. The warmth of her skin so close to me was intoxicating, the faint scent subtle, yet deeply familiar, like a secret only we shared. Her toes flexed softly, and I caught my breath again, the simple motion stirring a restlessness that spread through me, a quiet ache I wasn't ready to name. As her foot traced a delicate line along my thigh, a silent question seemed to pass between us, a curiosity laced with hesitation and desire. I realized then that this moment was far from accidental. It was an invitation subtle, and profound. And I was helplessly drawn to it, caught in the slow pull of something far greater than myself. Her smile deepened, soft and knowing, as if she held secrets I wasn't yet meant to understand. Or maybe she wanted me to discover them slowly, one whispered moment at a time. That playful glint in her eyes was impossible to resist. I felt my pulse quicken as she let her foot drift higher, the bare skin gliding along the curve of my thigh with a gentle, teasing pressure. The warmth radiated through my jeans, sending a shiver that I couldn't hide. I watched the delicate movements of her toes, how they flexed and curled like a slow dance only we could see. Each subtle shift seemed laden with intention, a quiet beckoning that filled the room with charged anticipation. The silence between us grew heavier, as though the very air was holding its breath, waiting for what might come next. She shifted on the couch, the soft rustle of her clothes mingling with the faint scent of jasmine that followed her every movement. Her feet were bare and free, and I found myself drawn to the gentle arches, the smooth heels, the slight calluses that told stories of strength beneath their softness. Her toes traced delicate patterns along my skin, and I couldn't stop myself from inching closer, silently willing her to keep this tender contact alive. Her eyes locked on mine, sparkling with quiet mischief. The unspoken challenge hung between us. How far could we go in this dance of touches and glances? Was she aware of the way my breath hitched every time her toes curled lightly against my skin? Did she feel the silent invitation I offered through my steady gaze and trembling hands? Without breaking the connection, she slowly laid back, settling deeper into the couch. Her legs extended toward me, bare feet hovering near my face, the soft skin glowing in the warm light. I swallowed hard, the scent of her skin intoxicating, the proximity overwhelming. My heart thundered in my chest, every nerve alight with a mixture of wonder and restraint. And then, almost imperceptibly, her toes brushed against my cheek, a touch so light it might have been a whisper. I closed my eyes briefly, savoring the sensation, the quiet connection that spoke volumes without a single word. This was no accident. This was a beginning. She settled deeper into the couch, the cushions cradling her as if they knew her weight and warmth intimately. Her bare feet stretched out slowly, toes flexing in a languid rhythm that drew my gaze like a tide pulling toward the shore. The soft lighting wrapped around her skin, accentuating the gentle curves and delicate textures. Every arch, every pad, every subtle line on the soles telling a story I felt eager to read. Her movement was unhurried, almost hypnotic. She laid back fully now, her legs extending toward me, bare feet poised with a confident ease that spoke of unspoken command. The air between us thickened, each breath she took mingling with the scent of her skin, warm, faintly floral, and utterly intoxicating. Her toes twitched slightly, curling just enough to stir something deep inside me that I hadn't dared acknowledge. I sat frozen, caught in the gravity of the moment. Her foot hovered near my face, the distance shrinking with each heartbeat until finally, with a slow, deliberate motion, she rested her sole gently against my cheek. The touch was light but undeniable, soft skin pressing warm against me, grounding me in this new, fragile reality. My breath hitched. A rush of sensations flooded me. Vulnerability, longing, confusion, and an overwhelming tenderness. I couldn't tell if it was the softness of her skin, the intimacy of her gesture, or the silent trust woven between us that unsettled me so completely. Her eyes held mine, steady and unflinching, and I sensed an invitation deeper than words, a permission to explore what lay beneath the surface of this moment. Her toes flexed slowly against my temple, and my breath caught again. The silence stretched, thick with everything unspoken, everything waiting to be understood. It wasn't just a foot on my face. It was a connection, a wordless confession of closeness that transcended explanation. I felt my heart beat louder, matching the rhythm of the quiet rain outside, and I knew that nothing would ever be quite the same again. Her foot rested gently on my cheek, a quiet weight that both comforted and ignited something inside me. The soft pressure was subtle, a whisper rather than a command, yet it held a gravity I could feel deep in my bones. My breath caught as I met her gaze, eyes locking in a silent conversation far more potent than any words could convey. Her eyes were calm, confident, and somehow tender all at once. There was no judgment there, only an understanding that felt both foreign and profoundly familiar. It was as if she saw every fragment of my hesitation and desire, embraced it without question. The warmth radiating from her skin against my face felt like a balm, soothing the quiet turmoil I hadn't realized I'd carried. I found myself inching closer, drawn in by the magnetism of her presence and the delicate intimacy of that simple touch. Her toes flexed slowly, the movement so gentle I could have mistaken it for a breeze stirring a leaf. Yet each subtle shift sent a ripple through me, a silent invitation, a hidden promise. The room seemed to fade away until there was nothing but us. The soft glow of the lamp, the faint scent of jasmine on the air, and the unspoken tension that wrapped us in a fragile cocoon. My heart pounded unevenly, caught between fear and longing, vulnerability and boldness. Her gaze never wavered, as if challenging me to step beyond the boundaries I had carefully drawn. I could feel the silence growing heavier, thicker, until it was almost tactile, a presence that filled every corner of the space between us. The slow, deliberate movement of her toes against my skin sent a shiver rippling down my spine. I couldn't look away. I didn't want to. In that suspended moment, I understood that something uncharted had begun, a quiet awakening, a tender exploration of connection that neither of us could yet name, but both of us could feel. Her foot lingered on my cheek, the warmth seeping into my skin like a slow-burning ember. Each gentle flex of her toes was a subtle caress, a secret language spoken without words. The silence between us grew heavy, thickening into something almost tangible, an invitation hanging delicately in the air, fragile yet impossible to ignore. I could feel the quiet pulse of her presence, steady and reassuring, like a heartbeat synchronized with my own. My gaze traced the graceful lines of her foot, the soft curve of her arch, the delicate pads beneath her toes, the smooth skin that seemed to glow softly under the lamplight. The scent of jasmine and warmth wrapped around me, drawing me deeper into this intimate world we were creating. She shifted slightly, her toes brushing against my temple, a movement so light it could have been a whisper. The contact sent a shiver through me, awakening a hunger I didn't fully understand, a need born not just from touch, but from the trust and vulnerability woven between us. Our eyes met again, and in that gaze was an unspoken question, a shared curiosity that neither dared voice aloud. The boundaries we'd always known were fading, dissolving into the quiet intimacy that now defined us. Her foot resting on my face was no longer just a touch. It was a bridge, a tender crossing into something new and uncharted. My hands trembled slightly as I reached up, hesitant but yearning, and gently cupped her ankle. The warmth of her skin beneath my fingertips was electrifying, grounding me in the moment, yet setting my senses alight. She didn't pull away. Instead, she relaxed, a soft sigh escaping her lips, as if welcoming this silent communion. The room around us seemed to dissolve, leaving only the soft glow of the lamp, the rhythmic tapping of rain outside, and a shared breath between two souls discovering a connection beyond words. In that quiet embrace, I realized that this moment was the beginning, the first step down a path neither of us could fully see, but both were eager to explore. The room felt smaller somehow, as if the world had compressed around us, focusing all its energy on the quiet space where her foot rested against my skin and my hands held her ankle with trembling care. The faint scent of jasmine drifted between us, mingling with the warmth radiating from her bare flesh, a sensory thread that wove us closer in a tapestry of silent intimacy. Each breath I took was shallow, caught between the need to stay still and the desire to explore more. More of her presence, more of the sensations blossoming quietly within me. Her toes flexed against my temple again, slow and deliberate, and I felt a shiver ripple down my spine, a delicate tension pooling low in my chest. Our eyes remained locked, communicating without words the complex mix of emotions swirling beneath the surface. Curiosity, longing, hesitation, and something deeper, a fragile trust that demanded care and respect. She shifted slightly, the softness of her skin pressing warmly against my cheek, the gentle pressure a grounding force amid the storm of feelings. I dared to move my hand, tracing a light path along her ankle, feeling the subtle give of muscle beneath the skin. The quiet rhythm of her breathing matched mine, slow and steady, as if our bodies were beginning a dance choreographed by unspoken understanding. The silence around us thickened, growing heavier with the weight of all that was felt but not spoken. Her foot brushed my lips, a feather-like caress that stole my breath away. I closed my eyes briefly, savoring the warmth, the softness, the electric charge of that fleeting touch. It was a moment suspended in time, a secret shared between us, intimate and sacred. When I opened my eyes, she smiled softly, her gaze both comforting and daring. There was no rush, no pressure, only the slow unfolding of something rare, something born from trust and quiet desire. I was lost in the simplicity of the moment, willing to stay there forever, caught in the breath and touch that bridged the space between us. Her foot lingered against my cheek, warm and soft like a whispered secret meant only for me. The gentle pressure grounded me, a tether in the shifting tides of my thoughts and feelings. I could feel every nerve ending awaken beneath her skin, every subtle movement of her toes sparking a delicate fire inside me, one I hadn't expected but now didn't want to ignore. The room's soft lighting wrapped us in a golden haze, casting gentle shadows that flickered across her skin and highlighted the graceful curve of her foot. I traced the lines in my mind, the smooth arch, the slight roughness of her heel, the playful dance of her toes, and with each thought, a deep longing unfurled within me. I swallowed hard, conscious of the way my breath hitched whenever her toes flexed or brushed lightly against my temple. The scent of her skin, faint, sweet, utterly intoxicating, filled the space between us, wrapping me in a cocoon of quiet intimacy. Our eyes met again, and I saw a flicker of something unspoken in her gaze. Invitation, reassurance, maybe even a hint of mischief. The silence stretched between us, thick with anticipation, as if the very air awaited the next move in this delicate dance we were sharing. She shifted slightly, her foot pressing a little firmer now, sending a wave of warmth cascading through me. My hands trembled as I reached up, fingertips grazing the tender skin of her ankle. The connection was electric, yet tender, a perfect balance of vulnerability and trust. For a moment, nothing else mattered, just the weight of her foot, the softness of her skin, and the steady rhythm of our breaths mingling in the quiet room. It was a sacred space, a shared secret that felt both thrilling and deeply comforting. I closed my eyes briefly, letting the sensation wash over me, committing every detail to memory. When I opened them again, her smile was gentle and sure, a silent promise that this was only the beginning of something extraordinary. Her toes curled softly against my skin, each subtle movement like a whispered confession meant only for me to hear. The gentle flexing sent a ripple of warmth spreading through my body, a quiet pulse that echoed the unspoken tension filling the room. It was as if her feet were speaking a language all their own, one I was just beginning to understand, fragile and electrifying all at once. I watched, mesmerized, as her toes traced delicate patterns on my cheek, the pads pressing lightly, tenderly, as if testing the boundaries of what was possible between us. The softness of her skin was intoxicating, the gentle heat beneath her soul a balm to the ache I hadn't realized I carried. Every breath she took seemed to deepen the connection, weaving an invisible thread that pulled me closer with every heartbeat. Her gaze held mine, steady and patient, inviting me to surrender to the moment, to embrace the quiet longing that stirred inside me. The silence was thick but not heavy. It was filled with promise, with possibility, with the thrill of something new unfolding in the spaces between us. Slowly, I let my hand rise, trembling slightly as I reached out to cradle her ankle, the warmth of her skin a shock to my senses. She didn't pull away. Instead, she relaxed into the touch, a soft sigh escaping her lips that resonated deep within me. Her foot shifted slightly, toes brushing lightly against my jawline, a delicate caress that left me breathless. The room seemed to pulse with the rhythm of our breaths and the gentle movements of her feet, a slow dance of intimacy that needed no words. I felt both fragile and alive, caught in the exquisite tension of a moment that was at once forbidden and beautiful. Her toes flexed once more, deliberate and slow, and I knew without a doubt that this was only the beginning. A first step on a journey neither of us fully understood, but both were eager to take. The soft glow from the lamp flickered gently, casting warm shadows that played across the curve of her foot and the contours of my face. Her toes flexed slowly, their movement hypnotic, as if choreographed in perfect harmony with the quiet pulse of the room. Every subtle gesture felt charged, a delicate dance of shadows and light that drew me deeper into the intimacy between us. Her bare foot rested lightly against my skin, the warmth seeping through like a secret, a tender reminder that this connection was as much about presence as it was about touch. I traced the outline of her ankle with my fingertips, careful not to disturb the fragile balance that hung in the air. The gentle rise and fall of her breath echoed in the stillness, syncing with my own in a rhythm both soothing and electric. I couldn't stop staring at the soft arch, the delicate pads beneath her toes, the slight calluses that told stories of strength hidden beneath grace. The way her toes curled and stretched was mesmerizing, each movement a silent invitation that beckoned me closer, closer still. The room seemed to shrink until there was nothing but the warmth between us and the unspoken promises woven into every glance and touch. Her eyes found mine again, sparkling with quiet mischief and deep understanding. There was no rush here, only the slow unfolding of a connection that felt both timeless and new. The silence between us thickened, rich with meaning and possibility, as if the world outside had faded away, leaving only this fragile, beautiful moment. Her foot brushed softly against my lips, a whisper of a touch that sent a shiver rippling down my spine. I closed my eyes, savoring the sensation, the softness, the warmth, the exquisite vulnerability of it all. When I opened them again, her smile was gentle, a silent reassurance that this dance was far from over, and I was ready to follow wherever it led. Her foot lingered near my lips, the soft pads just barely brushing the skin there, a touch so light it felt like a secret shared in silence. The warmth of her bare skin was intoxicating, stirring a flutter deep within me that I struggled to name. My breath hitched as I dared to lean in closer, drawn by the delicate invitation held in that gentle caress. The room around us faded into a blur of muted colors and soft shadows, leaving only the electric connection sparking between her toes and my skin. Each subtle movement she made, the flexing of her toes, the slight shift of her heel, wove a tapestry of sensation that enfolded me completely. It was a slow, careful dance, filled with a tension that was at once fragile and powerful. Our eyes met once more, her gaze steady and calm, holding mine with a quiet intensity that made my heart race. In that moment, words seemed unnecessary. Everything we needed to say passed between us in the language of breath and touch. The silence stretched, thick and warm, like the space just before dawn. I felt my hands trembling as they rose to gently cradle her foot, my fingers tracing the smooth skin along her arch, hesitant but yearning. She sighed softly, a sound that echoed with comfort and unspoken longing, and relaxed further into the couch. Her toes curled slightly, a slow rhythm that sent a shiver rippling through me. The scent of jasmine and warmth surrounded us, wrapping us in an intimate embrace. The rain continued its steady dance against the window pane, a soothing backdrop to the quiet symphony of our breathing and the tender, whispered touch of her feet against my face. This moment felt endless, suspended in time, a fragile, beautiful secret we shared. And in that suspended stillness, I knew there was no turning back from the path we had begun to trace together. Her foot rested lightly against my lips, the softness of her skin sending waves of warmth that I wasn't prepared for, but didn't want to resist. My eyes fluttered closed briefly, savoring the sensation as my fingers instinctively curled around her ankle, holding her with a mix of reverence and trembling need. The subtle pressure of her toes flexing against my cheek stirred a quiet fire deep within me, a fire that burned not just with desire, but with something tender, fragile, and entirely new. The room was bathed in the gentle glow of the lamp, casting flickering shadows that danced across her bare foot and my face, weaving an intimate story of closeness and trust. The quiet tapping of rain on the window pane was a steady rhythm, a lullaby that wrapped around us like a soft blanket, insulating us from the outside world and its judgments. Her eyes met mine again, shining with a mix of vulnerability and strength that took my breath away. There was a silent conversation there, a promise and a question, a hope and a fear, all wrapped up in the slow, deliberate movements of her foot and the warmth that spread through my chest. I felt lost in the moment, suspended in a delicate balance where every touch and glance spoke volumes. Her toes curled gently, tracing lazy circles against my skin, and I leaned in closer, drawn by the magnetic pull of her presence and the unspoken invitation hanging between us. My heart pounded with a mixture of awe and uncertainty, but I let myself surrender to the quiet intimacy, letting the world fall away until there was nothing but the softness of her foot and the steady beat of our shared breath. In that suspended moment, I knew that everything had changed, that nothing would ever feel the same again. The warmth of her bare foot against my lips felt like a whispered secret, soft, inviting, and utterly consuming. I could feel the subtle pulse beneath her skin, each gentle movement a silent message I longed to understand. My breath was shallow, my senses heightened to every delicate flex of her toes, the curve of her arch, the faint pressure as her heel rested lightly against my cheek. I hesitated for a moment, caught between reverence and desire, then slowly surrendered to the sensation. My lips parted just enough to welcome the gentle brush of her skin, the softness so intoxicating it blurred the edges of my thoughts. Her foot traced a lazy circle, the pads warm and tender, sending shivers rippling through me. Our eyes met in a silent exchange, hers steady, knowing, confident, mine filled with awe and a fragile yearning. The quiet between us thickened, heavy with unspoken promises and a shared curiosity that neither dared to voice. Time seemed to stretch and fold around us, leaving only the intimate cocoon of breath, touch, and presence. I lifted my hand to gently cradle her ankle, fingers trembling with the weight of this new closeness. She didn't pull away, but instead relaxed deeper into the couch, her toes curling softly against my skin, as if encouraging me to stay, to explore this uncharted territory with tenderness and care. The soft rustle of fabric, the flickering lamplight, and the steady rhythm of rain tapping on the window created a backdrop of calm intimacy, a world where only we existed. Every subtle contact, every glance, was a brushstroke painting a quiet masterpiece of connection and trust. In that moment, I knew I was no longer just an observer. I was part of a slow, unfolding dance, one woven from vulnerability, desire, and the tender promise of something beautiful yet unknown. Her bare foot rested gently on my shoulder, the warmth and softness pressing through the fabric of my shirt like a tender caress meant only for me. The weight was light but commanding, a silent invitation that stirred something deep within. Every subtle movement, the slight wiggle of her toes, the soft flex of her arch, sent ripples of sensation coursing through my body, awakening a quiet longing I hadn't fully acknowledged before. The lamp's glow wrapped around us like a warm embrace, painting everything in shades of gold and amber. Outside, the rain continued its steady rhythm, a soothing soundtrack that seemed to mirror the gentle rise and fall of our breaths. The world beyond these walls faded away, leaving only the charged intimacy between her and me. Our eyes met, her gaze steady and calm, holding mine with an intensity that made my heart race and my breath catch. There was no need for words. The language of touch spoke louder than anything spoken aloud. Her toes traced lazy circles on my shoulder, a subtle, teasing dance that made my skin tingle. I found my hands moving slowly, tentatively reaching for her ankle. My fingertips brushed the warm skin, the softness beneath a promise of connection and trust. She didn't pull away, but instead sighed softly, her body relaxing further into the couch, as if welcoming the silent communion we shared. The scent of her skin, faint, sweet, and utterly intoxicating, filled the air around me, wrapping me in a cocoon of quiet desire. The silence between us grew thick, charged with the weight of all that remained unspoken yet deeply felt. In this delicate moment, I realized how far we had come, from a hesitant glance to a tender embrace, from curiosity to something much more profound. And I knew, without a doubt, that this slow, gentle dance had only just begun. The quiet hum of the rain outside was a gentle companion as her foot rested lightly on my shoulder, toes curling with a rhythm that seemed almost deliberate. Each subtle movement sent shivers rippling through me, awakening a tenderness that pulsed quietly beneath the surface. The soft pressure of her skin against mine was like a secret language, spoken in touches and glances, in the slow unfolding of moments charged with quiet yearning. My fingers twitched, drawn irresistibly toward the curve of her ankle. Tentatively, I reached out, the warmth of her skin under my fingertips a sharp contrast to the coolness of the evening air. The texture was smooth, but real, alive with the subtle tension of muscle and bone beneath. I traced a careful path along her Achilles tendon, feeling the slight give of each movement as she flexed her foot. Her eyes met mine with a steady, knowing gaze, calm and inviting. There was no rush, no urgency, just the slow, deliberate unfolding of a connection that deepened with every breath and every shared moment of vulnerability. I felt my heart pounding in my chest, the silence between us growing thick with the promise of something unspoken but intensely felt. Her toes flexed again, a slow, teasing dance that seemed to echo the gentle tapping of rain on the window. The room was alive with the quiet symphony of our breathing, the softness of skin on skin, and the electric tension woven through every tender caress. I could no longer deny the magnetic pull drawing us closer, the fragile thread that tied us in a delicate dance of closeness and trust. As my hand lingered on her ankle, I realized that this was more than just a moment of physical contact. It was the beginning of a profound journey, a slow, intoxicating discovery of intimacy that neither of us had anticipated but both deeply craved. The night wrapped around us like a velvet curtain, quiet and thick with promise. Her foot remained gently resting on my shoulder, the softness of her skin sending little sparks of warmth that traveled through my nerves and settled deep inside me. I was drawn to her in a way that felt both new and inevitable, like coming home after a long journey. My fingers lingered on her ankle, tracing the gentle curves and contours as if memorizing every inch. The subtle movements of her toes, curling, stretching, flexing, were like the delicate notes of a song only we could hear. With each tender motion, I felt the unspoken connection between us grow stronger, weaving an invisible thread that pulled us closer. Her eyes held mine, steady and soft, inviting me to surrender to the moment. The silence was no longer empty. It was alive with meaning, filled with the rhythm of shared breath and quiet desire. The gentle rise and fall of her chest, the faint scent of jasmine mingling with the rain-soaked air, created a cocoon of intimacy where nothing else mattered. She shifted slightly, her foot brushing against my cheek once more, a touch so light it was almost a whisper. I closed my eyes briefly, savoring the sensation, letting it wash over me like a wave. When I opened them again, she smiled, a slow, knowing smile that spoke of trust and invitation. I reached out, my hand trembling, and gently took her foot in mine. The warmth of her skin against my palm was grounding and electrifying all at once. She relaxed completely, her toes curling against my fingers as if encouraging me to stay, to explore this fragile new world we had begun to build together. In that quiet moment, the boundaries between us blurred, and I knew that whatever lay ahead, we were no longer strangers to this delicate dance of closeness and connection. Her foot rested softly in my hand, the delicate warmth radiating through my fingers like a secret kept between us. The gentle flexing of her toes was a quiet invitation, a subtle language that spoke volumes in its silence. I traced the contours of her arch, marveling at the softness and strength intertwined beneath her skin. The room was filled with a calm stillness, punctuated only by the rhythmic tapping of rain against the window and the steady beat of our breaths. The intimacy of the moment wrapped around us, a fragile cocoon where time seemed to slow and the world beyond ceased to exist. Her eyes locked onto mine, steady and sure, conveying trust and a quiet daring that sent a thrill racing through me. I felt a shiver run down my spine as her toes gently brushed against my wrist, a teasing touch that was both tender and electrifying. I tightened my hold ever so slightly, careful not to startle her, and felt the soft pressure of her foot respond in kind. The connection between us deepened, woven from the smallest gestures, a toe curling here, a finger lingering there, each one a thread binding us closer. The scent of her skin, faint and intoxicating, mingled with the warmth of the room, filling the air with a quiet promise. In this suspended moment, we shared a wordless understanding, a silent pact to explore the delicate, beautiful territory unfolding between us. As her foot flexed once more, I realized that this slow dance was no accident. It was a journey we were both eager to take, step by step, toe by toe, discovering the profound intimacy hidden in the softest touches. Her foot remained nestled in my hand, its warmth grounding me in the moment as the steady rhythm of rain whispered against the window pane. The soft curve of her arch fit perfectly against my palm, and the subtle movements of her toes felt like a delicate caress, stirring sensations that I barely understood but desperately craved. Every flex, every twitch was a language spoken in silence, a tender invitation I was eager to accept. The quiet room was filled with the subtle sounds of our breathing, the gentle rise and fall of her chest blending with the steady beat of my own heart. Her eyes met mine with an intensity that belied the softness of her touch, a mixture of reassurance and unspoken desire that sent a shiver rippling through me. The flickering lamplight cast warm hues across her skin, highlighting the smooth texture and gentle curves of her feet. I traced my fingers slowly along the length of her ankle, feeling the delicate tension beneath the surface as her muscles relaxed under my touch. The sensation was electrifying yet soothing, a perfect balance of vulnerability and trust. Her toes curled slightly, pressing lightly against my palm, a quiet acknowledgement of the connection blossoming between us. The scent of jasmine and warmth lingered in the air, enveloping us in a cocoon of intimacy where nothing else existed but this shared moment. The silence between us grew thick with possibility, a promise of deeper closeness that neither dared to voice but both understood. As her foot flexed gently, the simple act of touch became a profound expression of connection, an unspoken affirmation that this slow, tender dance was far from over, and that whatever lay ahead, we would face it together. Her foot rested lightly in my hand, a soft warmth that tethered me to the present with every breath. The quiet night wrapped around us like a protective shroud, insulating our fragile connection from the world beyond. The gentle flex of her toes was a slow, deliberate rhythm, a silent pulse that echoed the growing intensity between us. I felt the tremble of anticipation beneath my fingertips as I traced the contours of her ankle, marveling at the vulnerability woven into the strength of her skin. The subtle scent of jasmine lingered close, mingling with the warmth of our breaths and the muted sound of rain tapping the window. It was a symphony of sensation, intimate and unspoken. Our eyes met in the half-light, her gaze steady and inviting, filled with a quiet trust that made my heart race. The silence between us was dense, charged with everything left unsaid. The curiosity, the yearning, the delicate balance of restraint and surrender. It was as if time itself had slowed, giving space for this moment to unfold in all its fragile beauty. Her toes curled gently, brushing against my wrist with a tenderness that sent a shiver through me. I tightened my hold slightly, careful to match her rhythm, to honor the unspoken agreement between us. Every movement, every touch was a step deeper into a connection that transcended words and boundaries. In the stillness, I realized that this silent dance was more than just a moment of closeness. It was a beginning, a slow, careful journey into a world where trust and desire intertwined, and where the language of touch spoke louder than any voice. And I was ready to follow wherever it led. The warmth of her foot remained cradled in my hand, steady and comforting amidst the quiet hum of the night. The room felt suspended in time, every sound softened by the gentle patter of rain outside, wrapping us in a cocoon of shared stillness. The tender flex of her toes against my palm was a delicate pulse, an unspoken promise that vibrated through the space between us. Her gaze held mine with a quiet intensity, eyes glistening in the lamplight as if guarding a secret meant only for us. The softness of her skin, the subtle give beneath my touch, spoke volumes about the trust growing between us, fragile yet unbreakable. I traced slow, careful circles along her ankle, memorizing the warmth and texture that had become my anchor in this new world of intimacy. The silence between us was heavy but not uncomfortable. It was full of possibility, filled with the gentle tension of things unsaid but deeply understood. Her toes curled once more, brushing softly against my wrist, a tender reminder of the closeness we'd found in this shared moment. I tightened my hold just slightly, a silent vow to cherish and protect what was unfolding. Outside, the rain softened to a whisper, mirroring the quiet connection binding us inside. The scent of jasmine lingered, wrapping us in a delicate embrace that made the world beyond seem distant and irrelevant. Every breath we shared felt like a sacred exchange, a thread weaving us closer together in a dance of trust and longing. In that fragile space, I realized we were no longer strangers, but partners in a journey that neither of us fully understood, yet both were eager to explore. The unspoken promise between us was clear. Whatever lay ahead, we would face it together, bound by the tender language of touch and silence. The room felt smaller still, filled only with the soft glow of lamplight and the lingering warmth of her foot in my hand. Each breath we took was a shared rhythm, steady and slow, binding us tighter in a quiet intimacy that felt both new and inevitable. The gentle flexing of her toes was like a slow heartbeat against my skin, steady, sure, and full of promise. Her eyes searched mine, calm and unwavering, carrying a silent strength that steadied my own trembling heart. There was no need for words. In that gaze, I found courage, the courage to embrace this fragile closeness, to trust in the slow unfolding of something profound between us. The boundaries we once knew had softened, replaced by a gentle understanding that neither of us could deny. I traced the delicate curve of her ankle once more, fingertips memorizing the softness and warmth, the subtle play of tension beneath her skin. Her foot responded with a slight curl of her toes, a quiet invitation to stay, to explore this tender new territory together. Outside, the rain had softened to a gentle drizzle, a soothing backdrop to the quiet storm of emotions swirling within me. The scent of jasmine and warmth surrounded us, cocooning us in a sanctuary where nothing else mattered but the trust and connection we shared. In that moment, I realized how far we had come, from hesitant glances to a profound closeness woven from vulnerability, desire, and quiet courage. Whatever uncertainties the future held, I knew we would face them side by side, guided by the tender language of touch and unspoken promises. And as her foot rested gently in my hand, I felt a deep, unwavering certainty. This was where I belonged. The night had deepened around us, wrapping the world in quiet shadows as the soft patter of rain whispered a gentle lullaby. Her foot rested softly in my hand, warm and alive with the unspoken promises we had shared. Every tender flex of her toes, every subtle movement, felt like a silent vow, a delicate thread weaving us closer in this fragile tapestry of connection. Our eyes met in the dim light, a profound understanding passing between us. There were no words needed. Everything was said in the softness of her skin against mine, in the rhythm of our breaths, and the steady beat of our hearts. The boundaries that had once defined us had dissolved, replaced by something deeper, more complex, a bond forged in trust, vulnerability, and quiet desire. The room held its breath as I gently lifted her foot to my lips, a gesture both reverent and intimate. I pressed a soft kiss to the arch, feeling the warmth of her skin against me, the delicate curve beneath my lips. It was a moment suspended in time, a sacred acknowledgement of the journey we had begun together. Outside, the rain softened to a gentle drizzle, as if the world itself was blessing this new beginning. The scent of jasmine lingered in the air, wrapping us in a cocoon of comfort and possibility. In that quiet sanctuary, I knew that whatever lay ahead, we would face it together, step by slow step, toe by tender toe. This was not an ending, but the first page of a story still unfolding, a story of closeness, trust, and a love that defied definition. And as I held her foot gently in my hands, I felt a quiet joy settle deep within me, knowing that we had found something rare, beautiful, and profoundly ours.